play written by students about students at the University of Essex.
Then we begin our bodies, our voices, our time to 24 women from different departments, different ages, backgrounds, nationalities, sexual orientations, ideologies, but all of them with something in common. They're all women studying at the University of Essex.
Showing in the Lakeside Theatre and based on real-life events, Plucked tells the story of victims of sexual assault and the university's poor handling of their reports.
A guy punched me in the face when walking past me in Seoul.
Thank you for your email. We will endeavour to reply to you within 5 working days. We thank you in advance for your patience.
A classmate of mine used to call us his drama fags. He used to touch our bums in Seoul.
Thank you for your email. We will endeavour to reply to you within 5 working days.
This production accuses the university of not upholding their zero-tolerance approach to sexual assault. I spoke to some students on the university campus to see if their thinking was in line with some of the accusations cast in Plucked.
The one thing I've seen is that the one time I have seen anything to do with sexual assault is that they have dealt with it very well.
I think university really did try to address the issue. However, I don't think it addressed it that well.
There seemed to be a mixed bag of opinions. Some students agreed that there was a zero-tolerance approach, whereas others disagreed. All this begs the question, how does the scale of sexual assault here at Essex compare with national figures? Shakaya Branch has all the answers.
A study carried out by Revolt Sexual Assault and the Student Room has shown that 62% of all students surveyed in 2018 had experienced sexual assault. 6% of respondents had reported their attack, and of that 6%, only 2 were satisfied with the reporting process. If we apply these figures to the Essex student population, over 5,000 students could have experienced sexual violence. Roughly 600 could have been raped, and approximately 100 of those victims would have been satisfied with the reporting process.
Marina Cusi Sanchez is the playwright and director of Plucked. Maria, thank you for joining us here today.
Thank you for having me.
Brilliant. Okay, so firstly, do you mind telling us what Plucked is about?
Yeah, so Plugged is an amalgamation of different testimonies of sexual assault cases here at university. It was created from different interviews to victims, witnesses, and other students in campus. So it's not only about sexual aggressions, but about sorority, about feminism, activism, whatever that answers the question what it means to be a woman at University of Essex. That's mostly what I asked them, and we had conversations around that topic.
Obviously, these are very big issues. These are very controversial issues.
Mm-hmm.
Was there a personal moment, was there a personal instant which sparked or which inspired you to start writing?
Yeah, so on the first term, I'm a first year student, so it was, everything was new to me. I had no idea of all the sexual harassment cases that were happening here in campus, not only this year, but years before. So it was the second month I was living here, and I was in my accommodation in South Towers, and suddenly someone started screaming. I could hear a girl screaming on top of her lungs, "Go away, go away, go away." And I watched through my window, and I witnessed how a woman was being harassed. She was completely drunk. The boy was sober. He was trying to grab her, to just to take her with him. And I could saw how that was people around them, and no one did absolutely anything, which made me so nervous. I just put on some clothes, I run to them, but I live on the 11th floor, so when I arrived on the first level of the towers, there was no one. I started talking to the witnesses, and they were so shocked they didn't know how to intervene, or even if they had to intervene. So everyone was so confused. I went to security in campus, and they told me that they received a lot of calls, so obviously there was a lot of people who witnessed it, but no one went there to rescue that girl.
When you say no one went there, do you mean none of the security team went over to offer their assistance?
No, sorry. Let me explain myself. When I mean no one went there, I mean all the people, all the students that called to security. Obviously, when I went to security, I denounced what I saw. So they sent a team immediately to the zone, to the area where I described what happened. So yeah, security obviously displayed some of their teams to rescue that girl, but to be honest, they treated all of that stuff in a very cold and impersonal way. Obviously, I understand they are professionals doing their job, but they were like, oh yeah, we see this every weekend, so don't even worry. And it's such a sensitive team. At that moment, I understood that if this ever happened to me, which the chances are very high, they could be speaking about me and saying, yeah, it's just another girl who's being harassed here in campus, which made me feel horrified.
So, after you went to security and after you experienced what you think wasn't a very suitable approach, was that when you started writing Plucked?
Yeah, I started having conversations with other girls on campus who experienced some sexual harassment or witnessed it or referenced me to another person.
Do you mind going into detail about what was said in some of these conversations?
Yeah, there was a lot of cases of being spiked in Sub-Zero, being grabbed. Being grabbed is something that every girl I interviewed commented, and they were explaining me how they were harassed, but at the same time they were like, yeah, well, this happens every week. This happens to all the women here, and it's not something normal. It was so normalized. It made me feel so sad and angry at the same time. And I interviewed people who were forced sexually. I mean, I interviewed people who were catcalled or stalked. People who were raped, some extreme cases, which it was so surprising to me because a lot of people experience that. Almost every woman. I think I interviewed like 24, 26 women. Only 2 or 3 of them did ever experience anything negative in campus, which are astonishing numbers.
Okay, and in these conversations, were there any victims of sexual assault who had reported their incidents to the university?
Many, almost all of them. Some of them, most of them, received an automatized response by mail, but nothing happened after that. Only the extreme causes where women were raped really received some.
When you say extreme, you're talking about rape?
Yeah.
Okay. So after that, after these conversations, you started to build some sort of a sense of the scale of the issue.
Yeah.
I'm curious because I've never written a play before. I've never experienced sexual harassment. I'm just wondering what type of work goes into writing something like this.
It was very difficult. It was the first time I was writing based on on real material, so I had to make sure that all the victims were really close to me while I was writing. So I sent them a lot of drafts. Lots of them asked for me to how do you say that? Like, I was trying not to be sensationalist, so I put a lot of care and sensitivity onto my writing, but of course it could trigger a lot, as I saw that a lot of people here experience sexual harassment, so I had to be very careful on how I treated the material. I had a constant conversation with all the people I interviewed, so just to make sure they were comfortable with what I was putting out there.
Okay. And you said you interviewed roughly 24 to 26 people.
Yeah.
I've had a look at the script of the play, and some of the scenes do reference some of your interviews.
Mm-hmm.
Out of those 26 interviews, how did you sort of cherry pick the ones which you were going to include in your play?
It was the most difficult thing to do because I had so much material, and everything was interesting and important. It was intuitive, I guess. I just used the ones that were more individual. I don't know how to explain that, but for example, in the case of spiking drinks or grabbing, I kind of fusioned everything into one monologue, which is the one that refers to fat. And all the stories that I used for an individual monologue were like the most characteristic.
So it's like a collage.
Yeah, it was a collage. It was so difficult. I can't even explain it. I just had to stick to some of the stories and then try to include as many other experiences of the other girls that were repeated into those monologues.
Now, this play isn't just an account of what happened and what happens to females on the university campus, but it's also a criticism of the way the university deals with these reports. As a student of the university, was there ever at any stage during the production process where you thought you might receive some backlash?
No. I was so worried about that, to be honest. Not in the beginning, because we were an independent play. We were not doing it through a society or anything. It was just me going crazy and saying, hey, I'm putting this on. I'm booking the hacks and let's go. It was when we needed some funds because producing it was not for free. So I addressed the SU, the Students' Union, and I asked if they could help economically. And they said yes. They were very happy and
could you give
willing.
us a scale of how much they contributed, the Student Union, how much did they contribute to the production?
Yeah, I don't know if I can give numbers, to be honest, so I will respect their, how do you say that? Their, not intimacy.
Their wishes?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to say that not over 100. So it was a very low budget thing. We tried to do everything ourselves. But as I was saying, I had to ask for funds. So in some ways, we could say that the university was funding it. And at that moment, I was like, all right, so the university is funding something that's going to backlash them. I went to speak to so many people. I went to conversations about censorship, freedom of speech, and they convinced that if it was the truth, I had to tell it.
And this was the University Student Union?
Yeah.
Okay. At any stage, did you have any conversations or any contributions from the university itself? Because as we know, the Student Union is separate from the university. Did the university actually contribute to the production of Plucked?
At all. I tried to contact them, no response. And of course there was a lot of criticism, so I tried to portray the other side. I wanted to talk with them.
When you say criticism, who was the criticism from?
From me, from the playwright, from the play.
No, I'm just trying to get a sense of who was criticising you. So the play received criticism, but
No, sorry.
that's okay.
I think I explained myself badly. What I mean is the university was being criticized by us,
Yes.
by
yeah.
Plagged. So, of course, I wanted to know their explanation of the facts, know why everything was so slow or why it was so inefficient. But as I received no response, I just got on with the students' vision of it.
Okay. And now that the play is scheduled for performance in the Lakeside Theatre, very, very, very
Yes.
impressive.
Yes, we're opening the season with 2 shows. It's amazing.
Okay. Are you worried? Do you think that there's going to be an even bigger, or there's going to be more substantiated backlash from the university now that it's going from an independence play to a play that's featuring in the Lakeside Theatre?
To be honest, I don't think they have the guts to criticize something that's real and that's happening, and that a lot of people responded and gave me feedback about it. If they backlash me, to be honest, it's gonna speak very bad things about this university, because we're just speaking about the truth, about the students' vision of it.
Okay. In your opinion, and in your completely honest opinion, do you think a play is the best forum, is the best medium to be campaigning about these issues?
Yes, it is. Of course, I'm a drama kid, so I'm gonna say that, obviously. But to be honest, I just seen that it attracts much more audiences. Plenty of people who wouldn't go to all the conferences, all the things serious. I mean, I went to all of that. I went to every single event that It Ends Now campaign put, because I was doing my research, and it was so hard to see how very few people were attending those events. And then we put on the play, and 120 people showed up. I mean, yeah, for what I've seen, it's the best way.
Okay. Lastly, the University of Essex has said it has a zero-tolerance approach to sexual assault, sexual harassment, rape and sexual misconduct. As a student at the university, do you agree with that policy? Do you think that the university does have a zero-tolerance approach?
At all. I used to, when I started this project, and I was convinced when I first started hearing the stories that the university didn't receive the mails, they didn't announce, whatever. But I mean, most of the women who I interviewed reported it to the university and received a response, and that response was an automatized email. And some of them received like a caseworker, but nothing happened. I have interviewed a girl who was raped by a rugby player, and I started researching more into that story, and I encountered 4 more victims. That student is still at university, and there's a caseworker working on that. So the university is completely aware that that student committed rape repeatedly and nothing happened, which just indicates me that they don't have a zero tolerance. If you're saying that you will expel rapists or aggressors, just do so. We can't have them in campus. They are gonna repeat their actions if they are not corrected.
Just to play devil's advocate, don't you think that the university could argue that these are very sensitive issues and they have to treat it accordingly? So instead of rushing these processes and instead of completely expelling everyone every time a report of rape is made, don't you think that the university should rather take their time to ensure that they get all the facts of the story?
Yeah, but something makes me believe that 6 months is enough. 6 months and 4 victims is enough to state that someone is raping repeatedly. Honestly, I That's it. That's all I'm going to say about it.
Okay, well, just on a slightly different topic,
Yeah.
you've written Plucked.
Yes.
It's now going to be in the Lakeside Theatre. Very
Yes.
well done. What's
you.
next for Marina Cusi Sanchez?
Me. So I'm currently working on another play about mental health and how this university is dealing with it. Because from the interviews, I saw that another important topic, which a lot of people wanted to talk about, was mental health and how university, apart from all these campaigns about mental health they are running, which I think are really good for opening the conversation, that when they ask for help, they didn't receive it, or it was not enough. And well, there has been cases of suicide recently here at university, which sparked a conversation, at least in the towers where the victim was. And I think this can't continue like that. So
Okay. Marina Cusi Sanchez, thank you very much and congratulations once again.
thank you so much.